So, Jeff Skinner here, editor of the Ohio Register. I am sitting down with Miss Nicole Frenchko, or Niki Frenchko, an American politician and current Republican candidate for Ohio's 14th congressional district. She previously served as a Trumbull County Commissioner from 2021 to 2020, February 2026. And she's known as a vocal outsider from that three-member board. Miss Frenchko, thanks for sitting down with me.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, no problem. So tell me a little bit about why you're running for this position.
In truth, the reason I decided to seek this seat as opposed to another one at the county level was because we had our hospital that was closed, and that was part of the Steward Health system, which was the scheme that was perpetrated against many it was many hospital systems. It wasn't just mine in my backyard. The more I delved into it, the more I saw that it was going on across the country. It was one of those vulture schemes where they buy the distressed properties, they do a sale leaseback scheme, they involve a real estate investment trust, and then they end up just draining every last cent out of it. And there's fraudulent conveyance, and we lost our every hospital that we had in our community. And Dave Joyce was the sitting congressman. We call him for help. He doesn't show up. He only came a year later after it's already been fully shut down. And his response was sending, a letter to Pam Bondi, which is nothing. So after that, and then also I had a dealing with him where I saw where he was on gun control. And the main thing he said, the reason why he supports so much gun control and so many red flag laws was because of the absence of inpatient behavioral health. And he just watched all of our behavioral health systems shut down. I think he's out of touch. He's definitely not a conservative or a Republican. And then it caused me to start looking at his voting record, and I saw that he's increased our national debt from by $21 trillion since he's taken office. He's participated in these schemes where he's funded studies. I can't remember. It's carbon sequestration or some strange study that he funded with our tax money to give to a company that he then invested in to become wealthy. He does, he's just self-interested, and he's out of touch with the voters here. Votes with the liberals 56% of the time. He's rated F with the America First Insight Group. He's just not a constitutional conservative at all. He receives money from APAC and other PACs that are linked to foreign governments. And the reason why he's voting liberal so much is largely because his main donor is Center Forward, which actually works to get Republicans to vote with Democrats. That's why I'm running. Um, and I know I'd be better. I know that I actually care about our community and the district, and that I will continue to I represent us. I feel like I was unheard as an elected official reaching out on behalf of my constituents to the federal level. And the more I campaign and I go across the district, the more I'm meeting people who say, we feel ignored. And so do I. He's giving money to foreign governments, billions and billions of dollars. He's voted to extend aid to refugees in Ohio. What about us? We've got homeless veterans and people who voted for the America First agenda who want to see some benefits for us, our national debt come down, some policies that benefit Americans.
Interesting. So tell me a little bit more about, what you're bringing to the table in opposition to Dave Joyce. You said a lot about, how he's doing all these things wrong. So what are you going to do right?
Well, first, there's a difference in our personalities. He's quiet, he goes in, he votes Democrat under the radar. and then comes back. And one thing where I'm different, and I'm as that I'm vocal and I advocate for my constituents, and that's what I was known for when I was a county commissioner, and that's just the way I am as a person. So, one, the Second Amendment is non-negotiable. I will not, I don't even believe that our federal government should have a registry of firearms for American citizens. I also don't believe that immigrants or anyone who is not an American citizen should be extended that Second Amendment right. I believe that that's reserved for us. I believe that if you come into our country, right, that you need to have a plan, you need to be able to sustain yourself, and that aid and services should not go to anyone who is not an American citizen. Uh, I believe that we need to prioritize citizenship for people who speak English, and that we need to be more geared towards assimilation. And I admire what they have done in other countries, such as Italy, where they've banned the burqa and the niqab in public spaces. So I'm very strong on the civic um, aspect of making sure that we have an identity as Americans, and that people integrate into our culture, and that we're not funding them to live, anyone to live here and participate in anything under other than United States law, not Sharia law or anything else. Um, Also, the budget and spending, I take exception to the fact that Dave Joyce has never pushed back on any spending. He has no excuse. He's actually on the appropriations committee, and everything that comes before him, he spends. The big omnibus bills with Democrats, he's always voted to increase the debt ceiling, and he's never pushed back on anything relative to spending, or saying, hey, we need to look at the budget and pare it down, strip the things out and vote on them individually, as opposed to in one large bill where they're jamming um, spending in. That's something that I would do. I'm extremely meticulous. I pay attention to details, and I wouldn't be just voting on everything just to be lazy and push spending through and increase our national debt.
Yeah, it's
I also,
actually, oh,
Mhm.
sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was just going to say it's a great segue to jump in to talk about some of the issues, particularly with property tax. As I'm sure you're aware, there's an amendment push going on right now to abolish property taxes in Ohio, partly, I would assume, because of the issue that you're pointing out, which is the out of control spending in the state of Ohio. The
Yes.
residents and citizens seem to be pushing back and saying, hey, we've been taxed to death.
Right.
Tell me a little bit about your thoughts on abolishing property taxes or just taxation in general here in the state of Ohio.
I oppose property taxes. A lot of people, even though it's not a federal issue necessarily, I don't believe, arguably it could be, where it relates. I've heard that argument, but I definitely believe that we should not have property taxes at all. And it shouldn't just be, I keep on hearing arguments like we're just going to eliminate them for senior citizens and for people who own their homes outright. And that's unfair. I talk to young people. My children are in their 20s, 21 to 31. And one of the big things that they're concerned with, my middle one, especially my middle daughter, is being able to afford to buy a home. She said, it seems like all of the policy, and we're Republicans. She's a Republican. She's a conservative, concealed carry permit, a God-fearing young Christian woman. And she said, Mom, I'm worried that we're not going to be able to buy homes. And it seems like everyone's worried about the older generations without caring about us and the future impact of the spending, and the fact that housing is unaffordable. And we really need, it's a state issue, okay? And they were supposed to address the school funding decades ago. I remember I remember when that came up, no one would take the initiative to make those difficult decisions at the state level. And what you see them doing is continuing to spend out of control rather than them saying, okay, we see the writing on the wall, our constituents are pissed off, we need to start doing something to plan for when this comes up because it's going to affect us. No, they're not doing anything. They continue to spend because the lobbyists give them money to keep them in office. So then they give money for other projects. The chamber controls them, the Chamber of Commerce, all these other lobbying groups, and they keep on spending and spending, creating more commissions and doing more projects, basically buying votes from certain communities where they need support. And I see this, I've seen it in government at the local level, and everything is favor trading. And when they do that, they're doing it with our tax money, and they're not listening to us. And we don't want them to spend money on pet projects for, donors to their campaign. We want them to right size government, stop it, decrease spending. I'm watching the news, right? And I see my local state representatives are coming up with more ways to spend our money. We just started this commission and that commission. It's like, I'm pissed. That's enough spending. It's time to show us how you're going to save money and give us our money back. How are you going to make sure that you're providing services, because we still need EMT and fire and township services, but and they could do that by reducing what they spend, by being more efficient at the state level, but they don't. They just don't. Our population is declining. Our tax base is declining. That means that government should be decreasing as well. But they don't do that. They keep on increasing government spending when we have a decreasing population base. It doesn't make any sense. They need to look at certain things, which is up to them to do. Some things they might want to consider is regionalizing school districts. They might have to do things that might be politically uncomfortable for them to do, but they're tasked with making sure that they fund the schools and making sure that the local governments and townships have what they need in order to continue to exist and provide services. So I think it's time that our state representatives, state senators step up and take care of business for the constituents, instead of their donors and the lobbyists. Because to my eyes, that's all they do at every level of government, and it's disgusting.
You mentioned red flag laws as well. I'd like to get your opinion to kind of elaborate on that a little bit more. It's been discussed a lot, maybe in the last 5 to 10 years, sort of this proposal of going in, taking the guns first, applying due process second. Do you see that as a legitimate, constitutional concern here in Ohio?
In Ohio, what was that again? Take
As far as red flag laws, do you see that as a legitimate, issue here in the state of Ohio?
I at the federal level, I don't believe that we should be regulating anything at the federal level. I don't believe that the government from which we're supposed to be able to protect ourselves from, if they become tyrannical, okay? That's the federal government. We have that right under the Constitution to bear arms. That same government should not be keeping a registry of the citizens that want to have weapons to protect themselves from a tyrannical government. It's completely counterintuitive. I don't even think it's constitutional that they maintain a registry of our firearms as American citizens. I disagree with it wholly 100%. I disagree with the red flag laws and anything that the federal government is involved in relative to gun owners.
Why do you think they're keeping a registry?
I, I,
Just curious. I
are
don't know.
we
I'm just,
really, are we really
yeah.
going to get into that? I think for the same reason that David Joyce is advocated for the federal government to keep a tracking system on who did and didn't take the COVID jab. I think that there's going to be an advancement to create a surveillance states I believe that's why they're looking at not just data centers, but AI data centers. And the only reason you need that much capacity is to have surveillance on your citizens. If you look at the token cities that they're doing in other communities, and the kill switches in cars to stop you while you're driving that David Joyce just voted for, those are all telling signs of where our society is heading. And they do not need to know who has guns. So
Yeah.
yeah.
It's interesting because, I think that was a very hot button issue amongst the conservative base, during the Biden administration. You don't hear too much about it, these days. But, on the concept of data centers, there's sort of what I can see, a joint operation going on between the federal EPA, which has recently released, deregulation of PFAS exposure. They've lowered the threshold so that you can, or rather raise the threshold depending on how you're looking at it, to say that, okay, you can be exposed to a greater amount of it and still be considered fine. And that's going along the same lines as the Ohio EPA here, which is mulling over a petition to allow data centers to dump wastewater, which will
Mm.
contain PFAS into the Great Lakes, thus increasing our exposure rate in general. I'd like to get your opinion on that and try to ask and pick your brain on what you think possible solutions could be from your seat.
At the federal level, at the federal level, um, I look, sometimes the EPA is involved in silly things, and in my opinion, and sometimes, like in a matter like this, um, I think we need to be looking, it's serious. And what they did with the deregulation there is extremely adverse to citizens. I was an elected county commissioner, and we discussed those matters related to our drinking water sources because we have many different water districts, and these things are important to the health and safety of our citizens. I don't want anything to do with that, and with our drinking water sources, our water, our nature, our farming is all can all be adversely affected and compromised from this. I wholly disagree with it. And I don't want the federal government to take over regulation. I'm a little concerned relative to the AI data centers that if it continues to be difficult for them to develop in the townships because of zoning regulations and moratoriums, that I think there will be a push for them to take that and regulate it at the federal level, like solar panels and wind. And that never should the federal government get involved with matters that should be determined very locally. And having that experience in local government, I can tell you just recently, yesterday, I was in communication with a few township trustees, and they're already having AI data centers sniffing around. And one community is putting a moratorium. The other community was talking about um, improving their zoning. And I really want to go to one of their next township association meetings and make sure that everyone's working towards buttoning up their zoning. But it still makes me nervous because of the federal government. We've seen them do this in the past. If the lobbyists can't get their ways within a state or a local government, then they'll find a way to work around that. And to be honest with you, there have been other communities and other states where they've put moratoriums on foreign governments and stopped foreign governments from buying up farmland. And I was always wondering, why is Ohio not doing that? And now here we have folks trying to develop AI data centers, and then they wonder why we can't trust our government, you know? So,
Do you think that there's an initiative to, let's say, push some of these concerns about health and safety and wellness aside for data centers, specifically because it plays into a larger agenda?
yes, always. there's always, look, I'm running for a political office because I want to work in government, and I don't trust government. If that if that makes sense. A lot of people say, "Well, we don't trust politicians," and I said, "Well, I don't trust them either." And I certainly don't trust my government because I've seen what they do. I've seen it on the other side. I've seen what they did to me when they couldn't manipulate or control me. Uh, we need regular people who who can't be manipulated, who are fearless to go to bat for citizens and run for office at every level and
Now,
win.
I want to talk
We have to do that.
about influence, but before that, you made a statement about, they tried to do that to you. Can you go into some detail about what that experience was, what happened?
Oh, there's a lot. There's a lot. I don't know how much you want to get into detail, but I was the first Republican elected in my county, the only woman, the only one with a education or background. I have a master's degree in public administration. I've worked in planning and community economic development for consulting companies. I knew what I was doing, and I beat the Democrat Party chairman. So I ended up the only person there who was trying to do things correctly, and they wanted me gone within a few months. I went in, they didn't have proper procurement policies. They were violating sunshine laws. They were giving employees free days that were not according to any guidelines. It wasn't, they were just, it was, I couldn't even begin to describe all of the things that they were doing that were just not compliant. And then I tried to correct those things, and they hated me for it. Um, they they used the media, they used the staff, they used other elected officials to try to vilify me, and create a narrative in order to make sure that I wouldn't get elected again after my term. And some of the things that they did was they tried to have me arrested for not wearing a face mask, for not providing my medical records, for and the one time they actually did have me arrested, it was for not apologizing to the sheriff. They arrested me at my own public meeting for standing up for constituents because there was a jail contract that was no bid. They were giving it to a friend. They weren't providing services. People were dying. They weren't getting their medication. And one of the family members reached out to me, and I exposed it. So when you expose things, when you expose corruption, when you expose ineptitude, um, and push back, they really come for you. And we see this happening at the national level. We see that in our own party at the national level. There are some elected officials that were run out of federal government, for not agreeing with everything. You're supposed to keep your head down, go along to get along. And if you push back or say anything um, on behalf of your constituents, or because you disagree or you want to find out more, then they'll vilify you at times for doing what's right. And that's what I experienced. But I think we still need to move forward and um, seek these offices. And it seems like it's a broken system because it's controlled by lobbyists and the parties, the establishment, insiders on both sides. What we really see at some level is a uniparty.
So, great segue again into concept of or conversation of foreign influence. You mentioned a uniparty. You mentioned, sort of these takedown tactics. Do you think that there is significant foreign influence right now in our government?
I do. I absolutely do. You can see who's targeted and primaried if they don't agree with certain agendas or take money from certain countries that aren't registered as other countries. You know what I'm talking about.
Hmm.
Then then they that's what they do.
So, what do you think can be done from a constructive, you know, position? Like, what can we really propose or do to sort of, pull ourselves back from that?
Transparency, pushing for transparency helps. I think that sunlight is the best disinfectant. And I, I we've seen what happens. People pay attention when they start to see things that are horrible, that are horribly wrong. And when you look at the Epstein files and the things that are in there, we need to push back. We need to I really don't know what can be done because these are the billionaire Epstein pedophile class. And it's not just one party. They control our government. They control our elected officials, and it's dangerous. You have to have a lot of courage to put yourself out there and stand up to entities that plan to kill people who stand up and speak against them. And that's happened.
You mentioned Epstein. I mean, when it comes to Ohio specifically, one of his largest proprietors and financiers, I would say, one of his only financial clients, Les Wexner, lives right in, Columbus, Ohio. Um,
Yes.
I guess, do you see any potential that he holds or still holds or could hold influence in elections here in Ohio or elsewhere?
I am I'm sure. I think it's interesting how DeWine and so many people have come to the defense of people associated with Epstein. Um, because if they're linked to a Republican or linked to Donald Trump, then the instinct is to defend your guy at all costs, you know? And I think that we need to take the blinders off, see what's going on, and realize there's something amiss. Okay, you look at Wexner and all the people who've taken the money. You look at the human trafficking that's going on with this satanic child sacrificing pedophile ring. Okay, and then you start to ask yourself, why is Ohio fifth in human trafficking? Right? Then I know that while I was an elected official, um, we had problems with human trafficking. People came to me, they told me about it because they didn't trust the government. Why? Because the guy who was primarying me owned the building where it was happening in Hubbard Township, and his other business was across the street from it. So they came to me and I worked with the human trafficking task force. We were able, I preserved evidence, they were able to shut it down, and a couple people ended up in ICE custody. But the people at the human trafficking task force said for some reason in Ohio, they always stay a few steps ahead of us. And when I was preserving and evaluating the evidence, the trail, the path that they were taking was from Flushing, New York. Okay, they were coming through New York down to Ohio. I noticed that some of the websites with the phone numbers were not just the Mahoning County phone numbers, Trumbull, Mahoning County. Some of the phone numbers on the same website were linked to Columbus. Okay. There were reports of uh, buses of girls. I genuinely am wondering if why Columbus had, look at Wexner and his property, and I can't say, we can't say what's been going on there, but if we look at the logistics of it, and that there's shipping and transportation of human trafficking, transporting people, um, and then you had the Victoria's Secrets and all of those brands down there right at Wexner's. And if you look at the land and the property and where it is and where the freeway access is and who was governor, or who our governor now was previously the attorney general. And I'm told that the bad guys always stay a step ahead of them. And the human trafficking task force happens to be under the attorney general. Okay. I start to connect dots and start to think about things in different ways. So
Hmm.
off.
I mean,
Hate
it's a fair point, and
yeah.
to be honest, if you're for listeners or viewers who might be watching this interview, um, you can also take a look on the Ohio Register. We've written several articles on the Epstein connections to the creation of next generation 911 programs like Carbine, as a company that handles the 911 reporting systems, as well as Laura Silsby, most famously, who was arrested in Haiti for human trafficking, changed her name, and then got a job at the Amber Alert system. So there is the potential, hypothetically speaking, that if someone wanted to put a veil over the reporting structure for a missing child, they could have that capability through the network that they've literally created.
That's what happened in California also with Ghislaine Maxwell's sister. If you followed that, I don't know the names of the businesses, but what you're describing, there was also that type of ring in California. So they were working with homeless youth as well. Yeah, homeless children.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Hmm.
Well, on that note, what do you think is a possible solution that can be done? Is there anything that you're looking at potentially proposing or supporting, in office that can sort of help squash or quell or put these people who are committing these heinous acts behind bars?
They need to be prosecuted, but that would involve cooperation at the federal level. And it's looking like so many people are influenced. I don't know how that can happen, but I do believe that punishment for things need to be quick and swift, and the Epstein class someone needs to be taken down for this. We can't ignore that while people who um, commit, shoplifting or something here in our communities, they end up in jail. And we've got the most evil people committing the most heinous crimes, living lavish lives, and, working closely with the government and paying people off. It's it's definitely a broken system, and I believe that there's a lot of corruption. And the only way I think that we can start influencing anything is to stop them from influencing and getting people elected who can't be bought and paid for. How long will they last though? Even if they get elected, the way the lobbying system works, it's just difficult. You wonder if certain ones should be registered as foreign governments, but we saw who took a bullet for that, you know?
So we'll jump ship a little bit onto immigration,
Yeah.
if you're amenable to that. That's an ongoing problem here in Ohio, obviously across the country as well. Um, Last election, I think illegal immigration took the front seat in terms of discussion. However, what we're finding now is legal immigration is just as, in some instances, detrimental to things like labor force, job creation, job filling. In the case of places like Springfield, Ohio, or even places in Columbus, we're seeing direct pipelines to third world countries where job creation just goes to temp agencies who hire out people on a TPS sponsorship or, H-1B work visa. What do you think about that, and what do you think can be done to solve it?
I don't believe in bringing anyone to our country unless they have the means to sustain themselves. I think we need to slow down immigration altogether. Look, even if you want to get a visa to other, if I wanted to get a visa to go somewhere, I would have to prove that I had the economic capacity to maintain myself without using any services or assistance. That's something that is normal, and we need to make sure that we have those laws in place. We can't just invite people here to even if they're working, we have to stop. We have people here who need jobs, and I have no idea why they're, it's just, none of this is okay what's going on. And I know I might not sound very, very kind, uh, but I don't want an immigration. I believe in America first, truly. I don't want us to spend money. I don't want people coming here without being monitored to make sure that they're speaking the language and understand our laws. And none of these things have been happening. It's been a complete train wreck with the refugees and the immigrants that we've had coming into our country and our states. They're taking over cities and communities and ignoring our, not just our laws, but our social norms and our, it's they're not oftentimes they're not even assimilating. I think that our American culture is important, our language is important, and we need to work to make sure that anyone who is coming to our country is um even if they're getting married. I see some countries where they don't even grant citizenship under marriage. They need to make sure that the other person is learning the language and things like this. I just believe in being a little more strict relative to that.
So do you support, as an example, the termination of the temporary protective status of the, Haitians here in Ohio and uh, other territories?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, on the subject of immigration, uh, as you're probably aware, we seem to be in some sort of amorphous conflict operation, not necessarily a war. We don't want to use that term. It's sort of fluctuating. But
War. It's a war, but we won it in one day, right? It's not a war. It is a war. What is it?
well, there is a
And whose
potential.
war is it? And whose war is it?
Well, there is the potential, just to, keep at the discussion of immigration. There's potential for refugees across, who knows what territories. Do you see that as a significant risk for the US and potentially Ohioans if we're looking down, let's say the next 6, 12, 24 months, and a potential mass exodus of Iranians they have to go somewhere, as an example. Historically, traditionally, immigrants and refugees from war-torn territories have fled to, Western Europe or the US as a matter of pipelining from nonprofits and NGOs. Do you see that as a national security risk and an issue?
Yes, and yes. And that's something that, I mean, you're thinking about it, but why, has the government? Where's the forethought? Where's the exit strategy? Where's consensus? Where's the support of the American people? Everything that you're talking about is a consequence and a result of foreign conflict, of war, and it is also everything that voters who supported the America First agenda because it was no new wars, right? It's everything that they did not sign up for. And I think that and the immigration, we're America First. We want to take care of our people. And here we are creating a setting, a situation for that completely opposes, it's completely opposite of what everyone who voted for the America First agenda thought they were signing up for.
Fair point. Um, so I guess is there any other? We're coming up at the end of the hour here. We got about 5, 10 minutes left, I suppose. Is there any other sort of issues that you see pressing in terms of, as we approach the primary, with your opposition opponent there, Mr. Joyce? What do you think is important for voters to keep in mind as they go to the ballot box?
One big thing that I've been asked a lot, and I don't even know if I should bring it up, is about about the endorsement. They say, "Oh my gosh, how did this guy who has an F rating with Liberty and Heritage and Insight or American First Insight, why is he endorsed as the America First candidate?" And by the president said it was a blanket endorsement done months ago, at the recommendation of what is his um the previous party chair, Paduchek, was that who that was? He's not even there anymore, but that's the president's advisor from Ohio. And people are confused by that. And I think that that's something that people should bear in mind, that they should look up the candidates. They should look up the history of David Joyce and see how he's voted, really find out what he stands for. The guy's lying on all of his ads. I mean, who can actually say that they're America First when their score is an F, right? But that's what they do. They 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 lie, and I guess I don't even I don't even know what to say. It's a politician being a politician, you know?
Yeah, I want to back up a little bit. You said in your statement that there was a broad endorsement from the ORP chairman.
Well, no, the
It,
President Trump made
uh,
a blanket endorsement of all incumbents at the recommendation of the previous ORP chair. So,
okay.
so that's why he's going around talking about his endorsement when he's actually the only remaining Republican in Congress who is left, who voted for the January 6th commission.
Hmm.
So here we have the most rhino establishment DC Dave insider who is pretending to be America First and for the people. But I mean, it's an important election because we have the globalist agenda coming up with the AI data centers, the surveillance state, the kill switches in the cars, trying to take our firearms. And here we have a globalist who's funded by other countries, by huge lobbyists. He spent billions of dollars on COVID tracking systems, and he wants 2 more years. And I think that the people in the Northeastern Ohio district should recognize this guy doesn't represent our values, and he sneaks in, votes Democrat, and leaves. And if anyone actually wants to have a real Republican, a real patriot, someone who's going to push back, ask questions, be careful and conscientious when it comes to spending, actually put America first in everything, and be accessible and actually care about the community, and your gun rights and your liberty, that would be me. So it's an important primary. It's May 5th. A lot of people don't realize how important our primaries are, and they're incredibly important. So
I guess finally, you mentioned the term rhino. I hear that a lot, in discussion as we move in primaries and elections. And what does that term mean to you?
I, it's a Republican in name only, and his voting record proves that that's what he is. He votes largely for Democrat policies. You can find him online celebrating and over getting Democrat policy passed. He's never done anything to support or advance Republicans. I mean, what, 40% of the time? Only 40% of the time or so he's voting with the Republicans. And so that's what we call a Republican in name only, someone who wants to vote for red flag laws, who wants to advance a surveillance police state, someone who cares about foreign interests above our own, spends money like crazy, would rather fund uh, refugees instead of giving back to our American citizens or trying to decrease taxes for us. He's not a Republican. That's what a Republican in name only is someone who pretends for political expedience. So,
Someone who has failed to conserve anything, as the old adage goes. Unlike
yeah.
potentially an alternative candidate, Miss Nicole Frenchko. Any parting words you'd like to say? I'll give you last word there.
Uh, I just check me out. I'd like people to look me up and to obviously to vote for me, but we could use donations too. It's Niki Frenchko for Congress. I have a Win Red. I have a Facebook page. I have an X and a website, Niki Frenchko for Congress or Frenchko for Congress. And I appreciate your support. And if you're listening and you're not from my area, we can still take your donations. So every dollar helps, when you're going up against someone funded by foreign governments.
Absolutely. Well, Ms. Frenchko, thank you for joining me this evening. I appreciate your time. And readers, listeners, you can check out more about Ms. Frenchko on the website she stated. And as always, check back at the ohioregister.com for additional updates.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.